Hey all, Marty here, and today we have a very special guest, and the app that we're going to be talking about is Speech Central. But before we do that, Michael is with us today as well, and say hello, Michael.
Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening today. I'm super excited for this. Something a little bit different than what we normally do. So, Marty, who are we talking with?
His name is Evan, the founder of Speech Central. Say hello, Evan.
Hi.
So why don't you give us a little bit of background on how you got your start in app development?
Yes, well, it was almost 10 years ago, actually. At the end of the year, it will be 10 years since I started to work on Speech Central. It was first released in 2014, but the work began at the end of 2013. And I don't know, it was some sort of my personal hobby, because at that point I was working on some sort of developer tasks, but I was also reading quite a lot, and I felt like that it would be great to have something to improve reading off screen. And at that point, it turned out that it was an interesting moment to start work on something like that for Windows platform, because it was fairly new at that point. Windows Phone had some traction, let's say, and also Microsoft invested in Microsoft Store, and there were some sort of different things that brought me there, because Apple didn't have full support for my country, so I couldn't register as developer there, and same for Google. And those were first steps. So I made such app, and I used it. I don't know. I was when I was going to work or when I was running, and something like that.
So, out of all of the different kinds of things that you could build, what was your passion for building, particularly an app like Speech Central? Were you looking for an app that reads that you couldn't find out there, and so you built it for your own pleasure to start with, or what was the idea behind building this kind of an app?
Yes, you can say so, because at that point there were not too many apps that worked great. So it was 10 years ago, especially on Windows platform, but even on other platforms. Getting the text from internet and queuing it in playlist and listening that through text to speech, it wasn't great supported by almost any. I'm not sure that there was any app, and I'm quite sure that it wasn't on Windows platform. But I believe at that point, even on iOS or Android, there were not such apps that would do all of this. There were certainly apps that did many of that, but not all of those things that I actually needed.
Right. That's really cool.
So I have a question that kind of fits in here from one of our listeners, Jane, and I appreciated her reaching out with these. In the Speech Central application, what type of file formats are supported, or what can you bring into Speech Central to read? Because she was specifically wondering, does it support like zip files, audio files like MP3, DAISY, web pages, EPUB, PDF, or anything else that you can think of offhand?
Yes. So most of that, but not all of that. So DAISY files are supported, PDFs are supported, web archives should be supported, though it was implemented long ago, but I believe that it is supported. Of course, HTML files are supported, Word documents are supported.
MP3?
EPUB books are supported, also some FB2 format. So MP3 is not. I think that's only from what you mentioned that is not supported. If I haven't missed out something, but MP3 is not supported.
And are you going to implement MP3, or if not, why not?
That's a frequent question, especially from the blind community. There are no immediate plans for something like that to be implemented, but it is not ruled out in some future. But let's say that I don't know, a year or maybe even 2 years, it won't be. So this year, for certain, it won't be implemented, and I can't say, let's say, with some certainty what happens next year. And the reason for that is that I try to build the best text-to-speech app. There are a lot of things that can be improved there, and those things that I'm working on, I believe, have a wider attraction for people that might be interested in such app. Obviously, every feature helps to attract some users, but I believe that at this point it is more important to work on improving text to speech than to just improve audiobooks. Now I understand that because there are not too many apps that support that. Actually, if you consider text to speech apps, I think that there is just one app that actually, among all apps in existence, that support that. And there might be some other types of apps that support such things in a couple of apps I heard of, though I haven't used the support. But I know that that's fairly frequent question from a blind community, and I understand that for some part of the community, that's an important thing to have such an app. Yes.
Gotcha. So it's more of a reading application to read the content that's sent to you in a text format. While you're reading that content, do you have the ability in your app? And in full transparency, I have downloaded the app. I have explored it. I have not imported much content into it right now because a lot of my content is MP3 content, and I don't have a lot of text because I've had to solve that problem of getting text into an audio format. And anyways, can I highlight text in there or make notes on something that I might hear in your app, or is that a feature that you may be adding in the near future?
Yes. So there are some annotations tools like that you can bookmark the paragraph, and also you can comment, attach the comments or note, whatever you prefer to call. But in the app, it is called a comment to the paragraph. And those annotation features. Also, you can make the item as favorites, full text, so that you can easily search for that. Highlight, currently there is no such feature. It is considered, but I cannot say exactly. Certainly that comes before MP3 support, but it is not yet, let's say, scheduled for some immediate implementation. So this is not ruled out to happen this year, but it is also not certain.
So something that I found that was really interesting is that you make the app free for anyone who uses VoiceOver. So I was really curious on how that works. And then if someone's not a VoiceOver user, what would the price structure be?
Okay. Yes, I believe that there is no such app of any type that does this. So in some way, I'm proud, both as an inventor, both because I believe that it is a good idea, and that it brings something to community. Anyway, from the technical point, it needs it only in-app purchases can be converted because it requires runtime check. Obviously, App Store doesn't have such options, so if the app is paid, no one could do that, even if he wanted to do that. But in particular case, you can import in the free tier 2 documents in a day or 1 book in a month. If you try to import more, you ask to pay one-time fee. It is $9 in the US. On other markets, it is automatically converted to their local value, which might depend on tax and the currency. And at that moment when it is checked, the app also checks if the voiceover is on. And if the voiceover is on, it simply doesn't ask. It continues as if it is already a paid user.
So what happens if someone turns on and off voiceover? Like they use it a lot, but sometimes they need to turn it off and then they turn it back on again. Does that affect anything, or how would that work?
Well, in general, it doesn't have some sort of immediate effect. It means the app works as usual, only if you try to import more items than you can in free tier and you have voiceover off, you will get a notification to pay. But you can normally use all the content that you have imported. So it works fairly reasonable in that use case.
And if you were to turn voiceover back on, would that message go away and then you could use the app regular again?
You can use app regularly because that message isn't permanent. So you only get restriction that you can't import more than you are allowed in the free tier. But yes, if you turn the voiceover on, then you won't receive that message if you try to import more than free users can.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. Thank you.
Can a voiceover user still pay for the in-app purchase if they would like?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was frequently asked, and that is really kind from those people that they want to support the ongoing development of the app. Personally, I don't encourage, though I certainly don't, let's say, disallow something like that. You can't buy directly in the app. It is not possible, but the in-app purchase is available in the App Store. So everyone can go in the App Store and buy it directly from there.
One of the questions that I don't know if you can share with us, but I was really intrigued by this model is, first of all, if a voiceover user is not running voiceover when they initially launch the application, do they ever see that splash screen that is shown that a user presses OK on that says that the application is free for voiceover users? And the second question is, are you willing to share, or can you tell us how many people have taken advantage of using the free access to your application?
I'm not sure for the first question if I understood fully. So that's the answer. That's the reason why I'll skip to the second, but we can return to that first, of course. Yes, currently, overall, there are something like, I don't know exact numbers because but I can have some sort of reasonable projections because when I make an update, I can see how many devices are updated in few days, and they keep updating in few weeks. Even some get after a year, but that slows down. So I have around 100,000 of installation. So the app on not just for the voiceover users, but for all. And voiceover users represent around 3% of users. So you can estimate that there are around 3,000 of them on iOS. Now on Android, there are some more of them. But those figures are a bit different because they represent larger percent. So it is something a bit less than 10%, but probably 8 or 9%. And I don't have exact data, but for on Mac and on the Windows, those apps are paid, so I couldn't make them free, and I don't have exactly those statistics. Though there are certainly voiceover users there too.
Gotcha. So that's an important fact to make.
That notification is shown to all voiceover users once. This shouldn't be shown more than once, even if you use a new device, as long as you have iCloud or some sort of backup for anything. And for users that are not voiceover users, this is not shown to them unless they turn voiceover on. So they generally don't do that, so they generally don't get notification.
Are there any new upcoming features that are going to be implemented into the app that you can talk about?
I can talk. There are quite a few new features that are coming, but at this point, I can talk in general. But I believe that it will be still interesting to hear. Because since the end of the last year, so it was something like at the end of November, I started an effort to rebuild the app in completely different technology. Now, I can probably skip some technical details because I'm not sure that it will be interesting for the public. But as said, it means completely rewrite. So there not a single line of code is directly copied, or certainly some of them are looked for the inspiration how to do it. But it brings the opportunity to rethink literally everything. And as such, there are huge changes coming with this new release. And I'm hopeful that it will be by the end of the year. It certainly won't be before September, but some expected launch time is by the end of the year. One of the reasons is because this will require a higher versions of operating system for those newer technologies to work, and it will require iOS 16 and macOS 13, macOS Ventura. And as such, especially for the Mac, that is fairly high request, and that will probably postpone. But I hope that it will be reasonable, something like December, to have enough current users switched to that and to go that way. And if we talk about what actually it will bring aside from this general story, I can tell that that's certainly the biggest update of any speech text app ever. And when I say certainly, it means by huge margin. I think that even if you compound all updates of any app, of other app in the last few years, maybe even 5 years, there won't be as big as this update. If we talk about settings, current app is among, probably not just among, even maybe leader in the customization, as it has over 40 settings, which is quite a lot. But the new app will have probably around 100, so it is a huge leap ahead. So it will be more customizable, but there will be also some important new features, and also it will have some effects to bring a more accurate and more natural speech. But I can talk about details now because it is too early. But when the beta testing starts, of course, I'll be able to disclose more. Currently, it is probably, let's say, half implemented because right now I have nearly all details in the player interface and features, but the library features are actually at the very beginning, and I use data imported via cloud from old app to test the player, but I need to implement everything from library management to importing all files. So it is still fairly complicated, and I believe that it could be half of the work remaining, but half is done. So it is fairly good going.
Yeah, it sounds really good. When you get all the new update out and the new features and all that, you'll have to come back and talk about all the new features that have gone into the app.
That would be cool, yes.
So I think you've answered all of the questions that I have, except for this last one. And I don't know how many other questions Marty has, but one of our listeners who wishes to remain anonymous had stated that they were curious if you're only charging one time and that's a one-time purchase, and with the numbers you provided, roughly about 3% of US or voiceover users, so getting it for free, what's the sustainability for that in future plans? How do you plan to continue developing if people only pay for it once, with everyone else switching over to a subscription model?
Mhm. Well, I don't see some particular problems in. I mean, my revenues did increase over the years, and they are still increasing. So I don't see some. And it was obviously sustainable if I was working for 10 years. I think that in recent years, the app is sustainable in its budget, and it is still growing. Probably in first years, it wasn't, but it may be reasonable for a new app to not be sustainable in first couple of years. I said I don't. Obviously, you can say that in my country probably I don't need as big budget as if I am the US developer. That's probably one point. And overall, I really don't see any problems in sustainability. Regarding, I think that it is a fairly false premise that you need subscription to be sustainable. It is more some sort of marketing premise that today quite a lot of apps, not just few, but probably even majority apps use to hike up the prices. The point is that your overall budget depends on your revenue per user. The model how they pay is almost irrelevant, whether they pay once a huge sum or they pay by the year or by the month. That doesn't change anything. As such, if the developer changes to subscription, but the average user paid as much, he would end up with the same revenues, and that wouldn't affect sustainability in any way. But in most cases, developers also significantly increase their price, and they use this as a chance to significantly increase their price, but make it somewhat easier because it is not paid at once. Anyway, as said, there are quite a few things regarding that, because if we talk about that price level, it usually requires quite a lot of marketing to attract users to make it sustainable. And if you look the price of the ads, then you will see that actually most of that subscription money goes into purchasing ads and not into development. So it's quite complicated story. I'm not sure if you're interested in more details, but let's say that, for example, quite recently, Rovio, that is game app that developed the game company that developed Angry Birds,
right,
was called, and it disclosed its balance sheets, and you can see that 30% of their revenue went into ads. So that's huge. But for most subscription apps and most games, it is like that. Because if you want to acquire user via the App Store ad, for the US, you usually need to pay $2 per click, but that is not per acquired user. So it ends up in huge sums. Let's say that it may be $20, sometimes even $50 per user. So that's quite a lot. And then you need to charge also quite a lot. So that's not good for consumers, but it seems that it is good for some companies, yes.
I would also say that it's probably much easier to be sustainable at a lesser cost if you're a one-man team. Some of these, developers hire, 2, 3, 4, 5 people to be working with them to do development and other tasks. So if you are a one-man team and you do everything, you probably have a lot more room for profit that way.
Yes, that is correct. Also, one aspect of sustainability that is somewhat going to change with all those changes that I mentioned is that I was using some sort of, I can mention it is Xamarin technology. that was brought by Microsoft, and I could share quite a lot of codes between different platforms, and still still have access to practically all native features, and make the apps that in the let's say whatever the word is. I'm not English native speaker, but you knew what I wanted to say, and that was great because with the same effort I could cover a lot of platforms. So it was iOS, macOS, Android, and Windows. And developing one feature on one of those platforms brought also quite a lot of code for bring that feature to other platforms. And from the aspect of sustainability, that was great. But for various reasons, I have decided to go fully native in this effort regarding Apple, and so it means iOS and macOS. And in some way, it means that in the future, probably there will be more feature differences between Apple and other platforms. And at least based on current revenues, it will mean that the apps for the Apple platform will develop faster.
Really great. You have a really great app. I think people are going to be really curious to see, what it's going to look like moving forward and see what kind of stuff you implement. And I'm sure people are excited about seeing the new look and the new build from the ground up. So I'm definitely excited. And what do you think, Michael? You have any other questions?
I don't even. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. And if any listeners are interested in getting more in contact with you, do you want to share some contact information, how they can reach out to you if they have more questions or if they want to chat more about your app with you?
Yeah, certainly it's possible. If they want to send email, it is office at speechcentral.net. Also, they can visit website, and there is a contact form if someone prefers that way, though it will also end up in the email communication if I need to reply them. And those are usual ways. Sometimes people also contact me via Twitter, so it is Speech Central. There is a little character at the end. I'm not sure how it is pronounced, but it is dash down because Speech Central handle wasn't free. It was already taken by someone else.
Thank you very much for coming today. We really appreciate it, and we're definitely going to have you back once you release the new one, and we can let the audience know all about all the new features that will be out. And we're all excited to play around with your app, and we thank you so much for coming and appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much for calling me.
You have a great day, and thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.